up right now.
Move a little closer if you can, because we don't have that. Don't verstell him that Geschäft.
Oh, I was on the phone this morning with Danielle.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to travel by train to Philly and.
From where?
To Philly, because we're both going to be in Amherst.
Oh, how wonderful!
But you obviously know. He was so excited. He put out the posting about doing the weekday Kol Koreh, but he just finished the Credo of the Kabbalists.
Right, it's beautiful. But tell me, what's the thing that brings you to Amherst now?
The Eisen Bar Mitzvah.
Oh, wonderful!
And then I'm going on. We'd have the academic Vad, the Smicha.
Right, and I send a message to Reb Marsha, and I will talk to you guys on the phone.
Oh, good, because you remember we did it originally when we first started. Yes. We got all your brachas, but we...
Well, I did at this point also honor that meeting of Ohala. We had to say how much how happy I was by the concerns that you showed for the non-academic qualities that people bring in, and I think that's a very important one.
And not only that, but Shaya and Laura Kaplan and I have been working on creating the structure for what you suggested to Shaya when you were off not talking. About integrating Jewish thought.
Yeah.
So we will be making a presentation.
That's so wonderful.
How to do it. So hopefully when we're finished, I can bring back a report on how it went.
Okay.
Nope, not more surgery.
It was like doing the toolbox should have been preceded by doing the more theoretical, integrative work.
Didn't even hear about it.
Is this on? This on hold, so where's the hold button?
He was worried there weren't going to be any women here.
You're the token woman.
I'm the token woman?
What is it? What's that mean?
Bring the power of the feminine into this.
Yeah, so I want to go and deal with Sfirat Omer, but just give me another moment. I need to discover where that particular button is. Got it. Okay.
Oh, you have to take care of my particular button.
So, when it comes to Sfirat HaOmer, we have. I want to go through what the Mekubalim have put on Sfirat HaOmer, so that when you find it, because most of the time people don't print much in the Sidurim of what is in a Hasidic Siddur.
Oh, in fact, Rev Danielle and I were talking about that in the art scroll.
Yeah.
In the Hebrew edition, it says Ba-Omer.
Yeah.
And in the English Hebrew, it says La-Omer.
Right.
And he was at a Shiur with some Orthodox Rav who was quoting from a tshuva about the whole Inyan.
Which one should you say?
He said the Orthodox rabbi says it should be Ba-Omer.
Huh? Yeah, okay. 295. And I'll pass the sitter around so that you can say 295.
No, it would have to be in some other context.
Yeah, in some other context.
Here we go. I'd like you to take a look at... They don't have that one here. That's interesting. That's just... and I got to find an art scroll. Could you find me an art scroll, little art scroll? You should find it in there.
Okay.
There are two parts that deal with the kavanah. There's a one that says Harini Muchanum Zuman to count Sfiras Omer, to fulfill what is written and the Torah and so on and so forth. And that's one thing. Then comes the counting, the bracha, the counting, and a very interesting line, Harachaman hu yachzir lanu avodat Beit HaMikdash limkomo bimhera biyameinu amen selam. My dad, all of Shalom, used to say, Oy Rachman yachzir lanu avodat Beit HaMikdash limkomo bimhera biyameinu amen selam. Yeah. So he was saying, because we are Kohanim, and we want to thank you. Thank you. It's all wonderful. Let me see. No, you brought a little bit too much.
Okay.
But that's a sitter. Yes, they're all good. Thank you.
Never too much.
Boy. So let me just see.
Yeah.
I just grabbed an armful of books and came.
All right. Omer. Counting Omer. As. Shalosh Golim, prayer for rain, prayer for dew. Akdomus Ushpizin. Hashanas. I'm going to look for Mariv. Mariv. All right, 3:12. It says Mariv. So, here we have it. It's a lot more elaborate. There's that L'Shem Yichud. Okay? All right. Read the Hebrew or the English, whichever.
Where? Hashem Yichud?
Yeah.
You want it read out loud?
Yeah.
We're doing silent
לשם
reading.
ייחוד קודש הבריחו ושכינתי בתחילו אורחים וליחד שם יוד ה' בו' ה' בייחוד השלם בשם כל ישראל.
All right, stop. Let's go over that those words at this point. Yesterday, I had a visit here from a lady who had been a Talmida of a Kundalini Yoga teacher of a sort of a very esoteric group. She left me her book here, and it has stuff about chakras and says, hey, Freilich, really wonderful stuff in there. So she wanted to know about the Shekinah. No? So,
Well, at least
it's-
she didn't
it's
want to
wo-
know about the Shekinah.
but I tell you something, there's such a wonderful seriousness about that, because people discovering that there is Shakti in Judaism always hits them, like, I never knew about that, because we always had this angry Jehova sitting on the throne with thunderbolts up there. So when they hear about it, it's always so exciting. So I was explaining to her a little bit about what part of when we talk about Shekhinah, what we are talking about. And so this is a detour, but it's a Geschmacke detour, okay? I was standing on the porch in Toronto with Bahir yet on my shoulders. He was still young. And I was doing my davening there in the morning, and it was in Shalom's house. And there was this parkway that, there's a subway there. Toronto has a very nice train system. And there's also a highway that cuts through. And as I was davening Shachris there, then I was davening Mincha there, and I noticed that downtown was breathing in the morning, and starting out at 6:30, going close to 9:30, downtown is breathing in, 4:30 going to about 7 o'clock, downtown is breathing out. It just struck me that there is that movement, that energy moves to the center of the city, and it moves out there again, and it's like a breath. This is how the city is breathing. So then, Vayipach be'apav nishmat chayim. God breathes into the human being's nostrils the breath of life. Okay.
Mm.
When I asked, what's the difference between God transcendent and God immanent, I would have to say that God immanent is ma neshama memalis haguf kach HaKadosh Baruch Hu memalis ha'olam. So God has breathed himself into that which we know as world. And world is that out-breath of God. Now, that I would want to say that's the Shekhinah. And it wants to return back to the in-breath, to be united with that. And at the same time, it is necessary for the world to be. But what happens is, avonotechem mavdilim, that from time to time there is an exiling of the vav-he from the yud-he. If I want to say it in a strong way, I could say, ish and isha have the yud and the he. A chosn and a kala need a ketubah, which is a ktav vav he. Okay? And if the vav he isn't there, then you only have the yud he there. And what often happens is there's a separation between the yud he and the vav he. An opacity sets in. It's like saying, we don't want to admit that there is a creator. Right now, when this business goes on about do you teach intelligent design, do you not teach intelligent design in Kansas and so on, both sides are stupid. The ones who claim it's not scientific and you need to have dafke evolution, if they would recognize that Enochanami, how would God do such a thing as create? How would God do such a thing as bringing about life for us? You're a scientist, you would begin with unicellular, and it would take time until you grow all these things. What's intelligent design? That's intelligent design. You have to have a muktam and meuchar. You can't begin without a big bang, right? So it has to. So until it leads to what people call the anthropic principle. There's the light anthropic principle, the heavy anthropic principle. Both of them point out that the concatenation of things that produce human consciousness is such a rare event in the universe that all the statistics would go against that to be happening by sheer happenstance. Because the statistics would say there's 1 in a zillionth of a time that in this universe these conditions would happen that would lead to human intelligence on this planet. So they have a good argument. On the other hand, the fundamentalists are using intelligent design to be able to schlep you into 6 days of 24 hours. They want to say, so if one would be able to be intelligent about intelligent design, one would say a plague on both of your polarities, all right? And intelligent design makes a lot of sense. Now I come back to the issue of where we are, so that the out-breath and the in-breath are sort of in this way separated. And what you get is, avonotechem avdilim, that you don't recognize the Creator in creation, and there is this break. So what is it that we are doing when we are doing mitzvahs? First of all, we recognize that there is a mitzvah, someone who gives us the mitzvah. Secondly, in doing that, we do an amazing yichud already. And the example I like to give is, when I ask you, raise your arm, please raise your arm, put it down. Now, for the time that you raised your arm, in some way, my will was resident inside of your arm, raising it up. Okay, so when the Rebbeinu Shalom says to me, and I put on tefillin, what I'm doing is I'm subjecting my will to the divine will, and I let the divine will flow into me. Asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. You go into all those words. So I say, it's like the handshake in the computers. You know, I'm your peripheral by doing this mitzvah. You are the CPU, the central processor unit. Yeah.
So let me go back to, I mean, only here can I even raise such an issue. I think, if I remember correctly, in first step,
Yeah.
right? You raise the issue about, the bracha to say before you make love.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those who are conscious about that they are making love to produce a child,
Yeah.
all right, where there's in effect, it's not so much, to use your analogy, there's an in and an out. There's a in and a reception of that moment.
Yeah.
In the relationship of creation,
Yeah.
at that moment, there
Yeah.
has to be that moment of,
That's a yichud.
that's the yichud.
Yeah.
You don't have a bracha for that one.
Well, the point is, I think I told you about that Reb Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov wrote a book, Derech Pikudecha. And Derech Pikudecha goes from mitzvahs period verivia, and he never finished the whole job. It's a wonder. He wanted to write about all of Taryag mitzvahs by beginning, this is the Chelik HaMaaseh, where he tells you about all the inyanim that have to do with the action. That's the Sharia, if you will, the Chelik HaMaaseh. Then he had the Chelik HaDibur. What do you say? What is there to be said? Then he has a Chelik HaMachshava. So when he comes to Pirya Verivya, Chelik HaDibur, he says the following. Kol hanenem olam hazeh belo bracha. If you have hanoah of things in this world without a bracha, ki'ilu gozel esad mokom, it's like you're robbing God. So you have to make a bracha. And since this happens to be a great hanoah, you should be making a bracha. Why is it that you don't make a bracha? So he says, because some people say that if you're going to do it too much, you're going to get blind. I mean, it uses up your koyach, and so on and so forth. So therefore, as metashtish et koach ha'adam, therefore you don't make a bracha. He says, nah, that's not the reason. That's only if you do it too much.
Right. That's in the Mora Nevuchin. I just taught that yesterday to one of the rabbinic students.
Where he makes a fijima, he has a whole geschäft about that.
Right.
There's a crazy joke. I think I should turn off the machines. I'll tell it to you later. Remind me about it. But you understand, there's that element in which he sees it like, how would I say, like a behaviorist in that sense. He doesn't have a sense of, because he didn't like Koach HaMedameh, but his grandchildren took care of that for him later on. So I want to go back. So what happens is that there is this split between Kutche Brichu and Shchinte, and the two of them don't come together. The Zohar has a beautiful, beautiful image here. And Roger Leben, this touches something we discussed before. He says, when you do a mitzvah, you should do it kibra de ishtadel batar avui ve'imei, like a child that's trying to make shalom between the parents, that exerts himself to do things for the parents. So it's like kutche brichu ushchinte, and at this point they're not together. And this child is saying, "Oi, Papa, Mama, come together." So you have that l'shem yichud kutche brichu shchinte has that very strong thing. What else does it say there? Go ahead.
You want to continue reading?
Yeah. Al yedei hahu tamir v'nelam. Give me that wording again. B'tchilo chimu.
בדחילו הולכימו ליחד שם י' ה' בו' ה' בייחוד השלם.
Right. B'dechilo, what? Dechil mean? Yira.
Yira, right.
Right? Rechimu is love.
Ahava. Okay.
With B'tchilo Rechimu, sometimes they will double it. B'tchilo Rechimu, sometimes B'tchilo Udchilo. They'll do them back, forth, both of them. And in order to bring about that there should be a yichud between Kutche Brichu and Shchinte. Now, B'tchilo Rechimu, what's that necessary for? Because you have a sense of how many thoughts have we had in our head, how many words have we said. But when our heart was not in it, they're empty. They didn't produce any quality, you know? When the heart is in there, that produces affect. So sometimes if I were to speak very cool to you and say, like, what was his name? Leo Buscaglia, who wanted to talk about love in the classroom. So he said, how could you do that? Because no dean would allow for love in the classroom, you know? So he said that he gave his lectures about the positive affect attitude in the transmission of ideas in the classroom. Okay. Like, you know, if you have to explain it to people. There was this guy who came to see me in Manitoba. He's going to go for an interview with the medical school dean. And the poor guy would always break down. He had already had an MA in a Master of Science in biology and was working in a lab and was doing great stuff. And he wanted to become a doctor. Why? And every time I asked him, he said, because I want to help people. And he started to cry. So we had a whole deal to prepare him to talk to the dean the next day. When he then finally said, because I prefer to work in the social sphere rather than in the sterile laboratory. Okay, so how do you talk to them? So you have to say it in this way. But what was missing is his tears. All right. So when the heart is in, that brings about a yichud between the seichel and the action and so on and so forth. So l'shem yichud kutshel v'shchinte. Go on. What's the next part?
הנני מוכנה ומזומנה לקיים מצוות עשה של ספירת העומר, כמו שכתוב בתורה. וספרתם לכם ממחרת השבת, מיום הביאכם את עומר התנופה, 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה. עד ממחרת השבת השביעית תספרו 50 יום. והקרבתם מנחה חדשה לי"ה ויהי נועם אדוני אלוהינו.
Oh, stop. Before we know. Okay. So what you have is there's a particular genius in Chazal that came out of the desperation that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Because by right, what would you have to do? You'd have to cut the Omer and bring the Omer into the Beis HaMikdash. Everett Gendler, God bless him. You know him, Everett Gendler? A wonderful, wonderful conservative rabbi, a poetic soul, great neshama. He was the first one who had his Ner Tamid go from a solar cell into a battery so that the Ner Tamid should be totally off the grid, you know, wonderful guy. So he also had a field. So on Purim, he would go and sow. He did wheat, and sowed the wheat, and he had a shul, was a reform shul in Massachusetts, and he would go Erev Shabbos, when with the scissors cut off some of that growth close to the ground, put a little ribbon around it, and tie it to one of the branches of the menorah. The next week it had grown a little bit, so he cut again and tied it up, and so that by the time Shavuos came, you could see the growth of the thing. Isn't it wonderful?
That's beautiful.
That was his way of saying, this is real stuff, you know. But what can we do? So the Chachamim didn't have that. So they had one thing. They said, if you study Torah, if you study the Torah, bringing that korban is like you brought a korban, which was a way of saying, you can't do it in action, do it in your imagination. Okay. Now that's a wonderful thing, and from where do you borrow that? You know, you ask yourself. You can't make it with somebody you want to make it with in action, so you do it in your machshava. If you can do it for the Yetzer Hara, you can do it for the Yetzer Tov also, right? So the Chachamim came up with this wonderful thing in which they said, Kol ha'osek b'torat korban ke'ilu hikriv korban. So they put this all in there. I'm doing this, and I'm labeling this counting of sphira, verbal counting of sphira, with a label that says that this is like organic, and saying this is connected to this pasuk. This is what I want to fulfill. If I could, I would do it with a regular Omer. I can't do it right now. I'm doing it this way, and this is so earth-bound and agricultural.
So is that also the justification for the recitation of the Karbonis and the...
In the Siddur, sure, that's why I would say at the beginning, Yehi Ratzon, in some Siddurim it'll say it, Ki'ilu Hikrafti, etc. And before, in many Haggadahs, before you begin the Seder, you recite the Seder Korban Pesach,
Right.
in which you describe the 3 kitot that went in there, and how they swabbed up the floor of the Azara, remember that? To clean it up from the blood, because there was like a channel of water going through, which they would block up, it would rise, and then they would let it flow out again, and the next group would come in and slaughter their animals and so on. Okay. So they say recite that, and that'll do that, okay? Yeah.
It also keeps us connected to the source. If we didn't have that in a few generations, why we do
That's right. So then you have a thing that keeps coming up very often in halachic considerations, that certain things you are permitted to do for the sake of chinuch. For instance, most Rabbonim would agree that if you teach a bar mitzvah boy how to do whatever at the bar mitzvah, that you shouldn't say Hashem, Baruch et Hashem Hamvorach, but you should say it the right way, so that when the time comes they have to say it, l'shem chinuch, you're permitted. So there's that basic understanding. Okay. Now the issue is, it is pretty far away from that formulation to the next formulation. So would you read us the next formulation that begins with Ribono Shel Olam? And do that in English.
איפה זה?
After the pages with the Sfirat HaOmer, a couple more.
Well, then we have the הרחמן הוא יחזיר לנו.
Yeah, and after that,
ריבונו של עולם. In English?
yeah,
ריבונו של עולם, Master of the Universe, you commanded us through Moses, your servant, to count the Omer count in order to cleanse us from our encrustations of evil and from our contamination. As you have written in your Torah, you are to count from the morrow of the rest day, from the day you brought the Omer offering that is waved. They are to be 7 complete weeks. Until the morrow of the 7th week, you are to count 50 days, so that the souls of your people Israel be cleansed of their contamination. Therefore, may it be your will, Hashem, our God, and the God of our ancestors, that in the merit of the Omer count that I have counted today, may there be corrected whatever blemish I have caused in the Sphira.
and today
then you
we
insert the
have
appropriate
Hod Shebigvura.
Mhm.
Go on.
May I be cleansed and sanctified with the holiness of above, and through this may abundant bounty flow in all the worlds. And may it correct our lives, spirits, and souls from all sediment and blemish. May it cleanse us and sanctify us with your exalted holiness. Amen. Sarah.
Amen. Ve'yal yedei ze yushpa shefarav, yushpa shefarav bechol ha'olamot. Ve'yal yedei ze yushpa shefarav, yushpa shefarav bechol ha'olamot. Ve'al yedei ze yushpa shefarav, יושפע שפע רב בכל העולמות, ועל ידי זה יושפע שפע רב, יושפע שפע רב בכל העולמות, ועל ידי זה יושפע שפע רב, יושפע שפע רב בכל העולמות. And we was that at the end of Maariv, when we would count Sphira, we would dance with that niggin. Now, I'm asking in the juxtaposition between the first L'Shem Yichud, which brings it back to the agricultural, and all of a sudden we come that the counting of Spheres Kedei L'Tarenu Miklipotenu, And that's not a bad translation, the encrustation, you know.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like you feel the crud, you know, that dries up on you.
Barnacles.
It's pretty strong. So what's one thing? How did it all happen that from the agricultural we jumped over so quickly to L'tarina miklipotenu? Okay, so here comes the Zohar. The Zohar says that usfartem lachem. The word lachem is an important word here. They're squeezing that. And they say, do we have anything else in Torah that would put us into that place where there is a lecha
Lech lecha.
or lachem? So, of course, in Lech Lecha we have that, and to Moshe Kach Lecha, and when he says Shlach
Shlach
Lecha,
lecha.
right? So letovatcha, lehana'atcha, they always keep on saying,
There's a beautiful line also in Shir HaShirim, Kumi lach, rayati, yafati, ulechi lach.
right.
It's
Right.
beautiful imagery. That
Get to yourself now,
Yeah.
yeah? You can, this,
go into yourself, yeah.
mhm. So that's wonderful. So the question is, where else do we find that so that we can learn something from it? Because we also have the sevenness. That the Usfartim Lachem and the Sheva Shavuot. Where else do we find Ubesafra La Shivat Yamim, the Shiva Nikiyim? That a woman, and then this is not Nida, this is not dysmenorrhea, it is gonorrhea. In other words, for Ziva, it says, when the Ziva is finished, when it no longer is happening, and then there are 7 days that have been Zayin Nikiyim, and then she can go and become purified. The same goes for a Zav, for a male who has that flux. Okay, got that? So all of a sudden we are in a tumah, and it's a pretty heavy tumah that happens to Ziva. Ziva is such a tumah that if the things you sit on become contaminated, there's a lot of, and plus the fact that the regular mikveh will not handle Ziva, but you have to have Mayim Chaim, you have to go to a Mayan.
I remember the sugya that I studied.
Pardon?
I remember the sugya I studied,
Yeah.
that if a woman has the flux
flow.
when she's riding on a horse, and if a man gets on the horse afterwards
Yeah.
into the saddle, the ability to become pure again is very, very difficult.
Right, because Tumas Madras, there's a whole deal about that, okay? So there you see,
studying
that's a
that shit.
pretty heavy tumah that it's talking about.
Heavy tumah.
It's not just a tumah that happens once a month when there's a collapse of the possible placenta, and it's like saying life hasn't happened, and that's a sad situation, and klippos like to go to a place where there was life and the life is no longer there. That's why corpses are via avot hatuma. That's why semen that does not take is tome, and that's why also dam nida is tome, because it would have contained life. It was waiting for life to be implanted there. It didn't happen. The placenta, the possible placenta collapses. That becomes the dam nida, and tuma, the klippos have a way of wanting to hang on to that. Got that? Where there was life. The mashal they give is, if you get up from a warm bed and there's a cat in the house, where will the cat go to? Okay? So the klippos like to do the same thing, that there is a leftover of chiyut, which they can't get straight because they are not hooked up to the right system. So, but they have to chaperein something, so they get attracted to the kiste de chayusa, the last vestiges of life that are there, and that's what they suck on, as it were. So if you want to get rid of the klippos, you have to find ways of purging yourself. Okay, got that? Now, since a woman has to count 7 days, and if you go to the 7, we always have Chesed Gvura Tiferes Netzachot Yesod Malchut, right? So a woman has to go through all these days. And if it begins with, let's say, Netzach Hod Yesod, and then with Malchus, Chesed Gvura, Tiferet. Then would have to go either way, but it constantly has to have that all these 7 are played through. Okay? So, and that's what's necessary. So then he says, we come out of Egypt. In Egypt, we were in what? In 49 gates of Tumah. Got that? So that's a pretty low level of descent. And that has to be cleared up each time. So the question is, why do we begin with Chesed? We should have begun with Malchut and work our way up. Okay? But that's the question that's being asked, okay? And the answer is because we couldn't have done it ourselves. That is necessary for Chesed to come. So if I want to be Mekarev somebody, I have to begin with Chesed. Later on, I can go with more Gevurah. Then I can say, we don't stay with Gevurah all the time. You go into Tiferet. That's beautiful about Chinuch here, you know? You attract somebody with milk and honey, and then you say, but you need discipline, right? And then you say, but listen, don't get to be a compulsive obsessive about discipline. You know, there is symbolism in there, and you go into Tiferet, you know. Then you have to learn how to be effective in Netzach. Then you want to be elegant in Hod. Then you want to make sure that there's going to be through and through in Yesod. And then you can get into Malchus and so on and so forth. But at the same time, as this was happening, that Chesed came down first and Gevurah came afterwards and so on and so forth, until Malchus comes. When Malchus has come, then the divine presence has also gone through from Chesed, from Pesach, all the way down until it has us. The Shloshet Yemei Hagbala. We are preparing the last 3 days before Shavuos to receive the Torah. And at that point, Malchus Sheba Malchus has arrived, which is the lowest point. Vayeret Hashem al Har Sinai, you know? And Har Sinai is called, therefore, a special mountain because it was humble, not because it's the tallest mountain that there is. So is Vayeret, there is that element of coming down, okay? Now, when the Zohar talks about V'safrala, Shivat Yamim is the parallel to Sfartem Lachem Mimochot HaShabbat. From there you get into that whole thing of having to work on those klippas and every day to have to work out something else. Now, take a look what else gets said. Lamnatseach b'neginot mizmor shir. I like this one because it is so ecumenical. What does it say? It says, may God grace you and bless you. May his face shine upon us, to know your way here on earth and among all the nations to find your Yeshua. You can imagine whenever somebody tells you Goyim this and Goyim that, if you can say, Bechol Goyim Yeshua Techa. Yeah. Why? Because Yoducha Amim Elohim, Yoducha Amim Kulam. Yismechu Viran Lu'umim Kisishpet Amim Mishor. All the nations will be happy when justice will reign in the world. Ule'umim ba'aretz tanchem sela, and how you will guide the nations here on earth. Yoducha Amim Elohim, Yoducha Amim Kulam. Eretz natna yevula. Earth will give her produce. Yevocheinu Elohim Eloheinu. God will bless us. When you get such a harmonious view of what the world should be like, you know, it's almost like saying when Mashiach comes, that's what Az Yemal Eschok, Pina Az Yomru, Bagoyim Higdil Hashem. You hear that there's always that Nevuah thing that says it's going to be a wonderful, better time ahead. Okay. Yevocheinu Elokim v'yiru oso kol avse ores. Everywhere God will be respected. What comes afterwards? Ana Bechoach. And Ana Bechoach is the same kind of a situation. It has 49 stations. Every line has 6 letters, 6 words, and of the initials of those words gets created a Shem. So you have Anna, Bechoach, Gedulat, Yemincha, Tatir, Tzurur, gives us a Shem Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Yud, Tav, Tzadik, and some people pronounce it, some people don't pronounce it, okay? The second one is so clearly indicative of Gevurah, because it says, Kabel rinat amcha sagvenu ta'arinu nora, which is wonderful. We are praying that our prayer should be accepted and that God should lift us up, but the abbreviation stands tear up Satan.
וואו,
See that?
קרא שטן, כן. קוף רש עין,
Yeah.
סין תת נון. וואו.
Okay? Do you see that? That's a very powerful thing. That's why Ana Bechor is such a great prayer, because it uses Gevurah to handle what's the wrong Gevurah. The wrong Gevurah is if there is an accusation that's being made plausible, and so that the categor comes with the categoria and puts it out, and this is almost Nelamti domia echef pi. How could I? The accusation is so devastating. I can't say anything. So when you can then say kara satan to that it's you want Yitzchak and not Esav in that place. Okay. What do you remember the great teaching about Yitzchak? Abraham lo yadanu, Yaakov lo shamanu, Yitzchak ata avinu la'atid lavo is going to be that God said to Abram, your children have sinned, and so God says, okay, Yemocha al Kiddush wipe them out. He says the same thing to Yaakov. Yaakov says, Yemocha al Kiddush He says it to Yitzchak. Yitzchak says, no, so what? 70 years a person lives. Okay. About half of the 35 of those 70 years, he's asleep. Okay. Then that leaves, then they have to make a living, they have to work. If you take a look, the moment of sin, that moment of sin itself, and you add them all together, you might get in a lifetime 1 day. 5 minutes murder, 7 minutes fucking. You add up a day, okay. When you add up a day, where do you come to the end? The end is he's saying, look, what I'm going through right now on the Mizbeach, I'm willing to go and take on half, go into Gehenna for that. So you take half and I take half. Palga alai upalga aloch. Half on you and half on me.
Where's that from, Reb Zalman?
I don't, you always, I know it's there. We can look it up, okay?
Yeah.
But I don't remember where it's from. That some people can say on such and such a daf in such and such a place. I've so internalized it that I don't know where it came from. It's in my kishkes, but I can look it up. It's for real, okay?
I'm sure I'd love to. I'd just love to really learn
it's
the
a
piece.
powerful image, right?
Yeah.
So then he says, therefore the Midrash says, therefore we say to Yitzchak, Ata Avinu, because he bails us out.
Mm-hmm.
So here's where you see Kira Satan is a bailing out that comes in the Gevurah line, okay? Now let's take a look and see what the next line, Na Gibor, Dor Sheyechutcha Gevava Shamreim. And this is wonderful, it's in Tiferet, so what's Gibor doing there? So the answer is that in Tiferet there's Chesed and Gevurah together. And what this is saying is, can we use your Gevurah to protect us? See that? Na Gibor, Dor Sheyechutcha Kevavat Shomreim. And I like this thing, like your own eye, that sense of protection that we want for our own eyes is so great, how we will shield it, how we will blink, how we would, we protect our eyes very strong. So we are saying, so like your own eye, protect us, God. Just let us be a basic reflex. Wherever we're going to be in trouble, you protect us, okay? Can you imagine what this must be like? Every time I go to the optometrist, and they have to measure me, and they go and look with that bright light in to see the retina in the back. It doesn't hurt, and it feels like it's a fantastic pain, right? I don't have there nerve endings that make it feel like pain, but the overwhelming light on this thing feels like I want to shut it out. I can't handle it. Okay. if you can imagine Chalila v'chas, when somebody comes, gouges out an eye with a hot poker, and you look Nebuch on in the time when Nebuchadnezzar took Yehoash, and killed his children before him, and then blinded him at that point. Can you imagine the terror of that? At this point. So that's why he's saying Kevava Shomreim, with everything that you can, protect. Then Borcheim Tareim Rachmeim Tzidkoscha Tamid Gomleim, or Rachmei Tzidkoscha Tamid Gomleim. So that goes for Netzach. And the other one, Chasin Kadosh Berov Tufanayla, that Techa, goes for Hod. And I don't understand quite all that has to do and how these Rosh Tevas operate over here. Yachid Ge'el Amcha Penei Zochi Kidushatecha, that goes for the Yesod, and Shabbatenu Kabel Shma Tzakatenu Yodea Talmud, it goes for Malchus. And since you have now mentioned 42 letters, do you see that? 7 times 6, letters, and that's the Shem Mem Beis. In Kabbalah, they talk about that there is such a divine name of those 42 letters. So when you go, all these that are in that other column, they constitute the name of 42. Therefore, you have to say Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed, to say, and I didn't mean to offend Cholila, excuse me. So when you make a bracha levatola, how do you say excuse me? Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. When you have heard how the Kohen Gadol pronounces the name, then how do you say it? Baruch Shem, excuse me, It's like saying, I shouldn't have overheard your private name at this point. That has that element of Baruch Shem Kevod Malchus Olam Va'ed. It has that sense. That's how Chachamim use it, okay? That's why between Echad and Ve'ahavta we have to say that, because it is, how could I get to love when everything is Echad, okay? So, excuse me, you should excuse the expression, yes.
It's like I just got something. I don't know if she knew what she was doing or she learned it, but my savta, when there was food left over, you don't throw food out. So she'd try to get people to eat whatever there was, but whatever was left in the end, she would throw over the merpeset out to the backyard for the cats in the neighborhood to come and get it. But when she would toss the food to the cats, she'd say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
That's wonderful. That's so wonderful.
So I never got why she did that.
This is such a wonderful Yehuda Tatoy. They're saying Shema Echad is Yehuda Elo, Leolam Va'ed is Yehuda Tatoy. The one says God is one and that's all that there is. And the other one, Baruch Shem, says we are here and there is a God and we recognize that, and to share with those neshamas that are in Chatulim is a wonderful thing.
But go back to just before that, when this striving for the unity, you also have to have the dichotomy so that you can actually love.
Right.
All right. You have to the object has to be another.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. There's some very few geniuses that manage to do that in their own person. Ramakrishna is a wonderful description how he dresses himself like Kali. He adorns himself like Kali, and he worships Kali in his body. Now, I don't think I can do that, But when I say at the same time Shasani Betsalmo, and I think of Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey in the same way, that's also part of that, that I call it on myself and I identify with that. But at the same time, it's not that identification that is total. It is an identification that says, like, how would I say? A is to B like C is to that, It's not like if you say God is love or Atman is Brahman. That is only a fractal is.
Right.
You know, it says like, as above, so below, so above and below is still separate, you know.
But it's not so distant.
It's not, but they share
Right.
a gestalt. That's, they may be distant, but they share a gestalt, like the fractal things, they're small. To any level of magnification, that image is still going to come up. Yes.
When you're truly in your heart and in your inner being, it becomes a mirror for the universe, so that you can experience the other within.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Within.
within. Mm.
But it means being truly centered and open in there.
That's what I like to call this transparency, you know,
Right.
that the ego is so transparent that it can shine through from there.
We had to, just this morning before we came here, our daughter Ricky, who's graduating from elementary school, so she's going off on this, what is it?
It's an outdoor education
It's-
trip, but they're doing a rites of passage.
So it's a rites of passage, and one of the things that she's going to get that she doesn't know about is that we wrote to her what we love, the characteristics, what we love about her. So as I was writing it, I was struck, it's the same thing, that I was both looking at her, externally separate, but also she was so much a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept asking, as I'm typing it and saying what the different things I love, I was conscious of there are those things that I love because they are part of me, and there are those things that I wish I had that she has.
Well, you have it in her, you know.
Right.
The potential. That's the wonderful thing about children, that they can fulfill a potential that parents didn't quite fulfill. Yeah, but it's there. It's inherent. It's powerful.
But there's also, I mean, just as as you're talking, there's more time for her. With God, there's eternity, right? So I can my love for God is not complete. It may never be complete. Most likely, it won't be complete. But God has that eternity to, English is a great language, to kind of mold, or I guess is the word, to mold that love.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
You should just spend more time making love with God.
What?
I'm not even going to...
It's all right. What happens is that all the incarnations, you know, for instance, when I say the Shema, and I have in mind that it should be a deposit on the last Shema, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So then all these last Shmas are going to come back, I hope, at that moment, so that I should be able to have a wideness, you know, of that last Shema. In that sense, all the incarnations, Ma'on ata hayita lanu v'dor dor. You know, you are a dwelling place in every generation. We have lived through so many incarnations before, and the composite of all those incarnations is our reflection to God. You know, I can't make it in one lifetime because life is too short and my limits are there. But all my incarnations together will be able to say that Shema Yisrael, you know, before you flow into the divine finally. Okay, so that's a wonderful sense of doing that. So let me just go a little bit more about the homework, and then we gotta stop soon. No, we still have a little while. When Shavuos came, when we used to go to a fellowship house farm, then the Ma'ariv of Shavuos night, I would begin to count with the people again. Chesed of Chesed, Gevurah of Chesed, Tiferet of Chesed, and we made it all the way until Malchus Sheva Malchus. And I had people go and figure where were you? What did you do on the day when you were dealing with Chesed Shebechesed? What were you metaken? What did you fix on that day? So this is a question of what's the homework at this point. So tell a little bit. This is not new stuff. We've been talking about all the Spheric calendars and everybody else who has been doing something. So how do you see it? What have you been doing with that? With the different days? Or what would you have liked to do with that? That's also good, because it's so easy to forget.
Yeah.
I don't want to count Sphira with in any shul or with anything, because that's something that even I do before we go to sleep. So that we can always check out what was that day like and so on. So what comes to you about the inner work of counting Sphira? Anybody?
It's not so much what we do, because we do the same thing at night. We do it from our little thing. And it's just to see what has been and how it fit in, or, and if it doesn't seem to fit, we try and figure a way that it does fit, and we just haven't seen it.
Which significance can you attach to what happened during that day? Right.
Yeah.
Anyone?
That's interesting. So my experience has been something like that. In past years, I've sort of had more of this emphatic energy around setting an intention for the day, and fixing what I'm looking at what there is in me that needs to be fixed here in light of this particular combination of Sfirot. And this year I've had more the experience of just being in the day, being conscious of what the Sfirah is, and noticing those moments in the moment, like this is a Netzach Shebegvura moment,
Yes.
This is
Yes.
so just really having that awareness of and
Right. You're not pushing a particular thing; you are recognizing it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and I'm finding, just like I find miraculously with the
Would you check upstairs and see who's come? If the guy with
That's
the
a-
cello is here, we're
Sounds
going to
like
go
a phone
upstairs.
rather than a door.
That's a phone.
It's a phone, not a door.
There was someone I heard upstairs walking.
So, just like when you finally adjust your life so that you're conscious of the Sidra each week, and
Yeah.
you suddenly notice that, that things are happening in your life that are exactly in line with, something you're learning in the Parsha. So it's the same thing here, that it's like just being aware of the Omer, just counting it really consciously and being aware of the energy. And I sort of feel what the energy is as I count it. Then in the course of the day, I notice how my day is allowing me to experience these moments of this. So that's been very different for me this year, because it's been more in the receptive, just being in it rather than pushing it.
Unmade.
Yeah.
I think that works for us. This is why we would write, for instance, when we wrote a letter, we would say, list Yom Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Kedoshim Vis Kadishtem Visem Kedoshim, so we would have that posik of the Sedrit come in, and that would be giving us a thing. When I read Thomas Merton, Sign of Jonas, and all these other books, the Mountain, he had, every day he would take from the daily liturgy and do a little posicle of that. Eve's mother is going to get a guest who's a cellist, and he's come to help her now to sing, to play for her, and she's never ailing much. So if that's what's going to happen, we're going to go upstairs and listen to him play.
So what I've come to realize this year, I've become very conscious when I studied your stuff on tshuva about Zman, that you have Yom, Shavua, Chodesh, all right? And I suddenly realized that too much of our stuff is compacted in too short of a time, right? So just like, the tradition of studying a parak a week
Mm-hmm.
of Pirkei Avot.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, I discovered that I'd really wish it was just one Mishnah a week,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my reaction this year to the Sfirat Omer is, I'm, pardon the language, I'm such a fuck up,
Yeah.
all right, that I need more than a day to be in this place, all right? And I was thinking about the fact,
He is here
Yeah.
with Sheba.
So if we could hear a signal when he's ready to play, we'll come upstairs and listen to him.
Okay, he said he's going to set up and do that now.
Okay, so in about 5 minutes we'll
yeah,
go upstairs.
okay.
I just need one.
Yeah.
I'll need the phone number from the Dutch guy sometime.
I'll give that to you before you leave today. Okay.
so it was just that, but there is the tradition that after you finish Pirkei Avot up
Yeah.
to Shavuot, that you start it again because of the number
That's right.
of the prakim.
That's right.
So I was thinking that, I'd like to go back
Over.
this
Oh,
this
each. Yeah, we want to do it more often.
Yeah.
I want to say that there is sometimes I feel like want to be one of the tzedukim rather than the. Why? Because the calendar is such a funny calendar. Today is Yesod, because it's Friday, right? But it's also Hod because of the
Of the
Sfira.
Sfira,
So it creates sort of this funny thing, and I haven't got that yet together. So that's why, for instance, when Reb David Olav Shalom did the Sfira calendar according to the Sedras of the week, how helpful that is. All right, let's go upstairs, and I'll go and find that address for you in just a second.